Thank you so much for having me here. My name is Danika Oriol-Morway, and I am the Chief Rescue and Programs Logistics Officer for the Wild Animal Sanctuary. I want to open this up with, I'm not normally the one that goes and speaks publicly. I am the one that deals with animals in crisis. I'm on the front lines of bringing animals in from bad situations, getting them across the world, and getting them to some type of safe haven. So, can you hear me now? Oh, yes. Here we go. That's much better. So as the Chief Rescue and Programs Officer, I'm really dealing with animals, again, that are in their worst day. And that includes almost every animal on this planet is having a pretty bad day right now, especially our horses. Our horses are in crisis, our Mustangs are in crisis, and we deal with animals in crisis. The Wild Animal Sanctuary was originally known for carnivores, and I know we've talked a bit about carnivore sanctuaries that also have horses. No, we do not feed horses to our carnivores. We love all of our animals. When you find your home here with us, you are part of our family, and we will put our life in the line for our animals, and I mean that very seriously. I go into war zones to get animals out of situations. I will defend any animal that finds its home here. So that is a common rumor that ends up happening, and I want to make sure everybody here thinks that we do that because we love our horses very much. So today I'm going to be talking a bit about our Wild Horse Refuge. It is the newest program, part of the Wild Animal Sanctuary, and I think it was very timely, the presentation that just came before us. Thank you. Because it's talking about a new way of looking at solutions, a new way of looking at how do we help animals. And I've worked in animal rescue and animal sanctuary for a long time, and I've worked from small home-based rescue, which play a vital role on the front lines, all the way up to the largest carnivore and largest. Okay, to the largest carnivore sanctuary in the world. And I see that there is a vital role for every single one of these rescues and sanctuaries to play because the need is too massive. And we all have an important role, from the advocates to the lawyers, to the lobbyists, to the activists, to the people handing out pamphlets on the streets. So thank you everyone in this room who is playing a role in this very complicated, very nuanced problem. And I'm going to speak very clearly from the sanctuary. I'm going to stay in my lane from the sanctuary perspective. I can't talk about our work without acknowledging our founder and CEO, Pat Craig, because he really is a visionary, and he's been challenging the status quo for sanctuaries since day one. He challenged the USDA to change the way and the regulations around how we keep carnivores, getting us away from the traditional cage model where there had to be a roof because everyone was convinced that tigers would jump out. He said, no, we need more space. The more space you give them, the happier the animals are, the more likely they are to stay put and not try to get out. So he's been pushing this model for a while, and every sanctuary that we've built since he started this is it's continually been the biggest, and is continuing to grow more and more and more. So we now have 3 facilities in Colorado. Our flagship facility is in Keansburg, Colorado. It's about 45 minutes north of Denver, and this is a carnivore sanctuary. This is lions, tigers, bears, and basically every other animal in between. This is our smallest facility. It is open to the public. It's about 1,300 acres. We then opened up our Southern Refuge, which is 10,000 acres, and that's in southeastern Colorado. This is both carnivores and Mustangs. They are separate. They are all in their enclosures. They are not mixing together. And then we have our newest program, the Wild Horse Refuge, which I know some of you have visited and some of you have never heard of before, so I'm very excited to introduce it today. This is our newest, biggest, most ambitious project yet. Very different from keeping lions and tigers, a whole new way of looking at animals and ecosystems. So I'm really excited to jump back into that a little bit more. So the Wild Animal Sanctuary, a little bit about us. We've been doing this for about 45 years. We now are home to over 1,000 animals. That again includes lions, tigers, bears, kangaroos, wallabies, and many, many Mustangs. We are, like I said before, we are the largest carnivore sanctuary in the world. We are also the largest Mustang sanctuary in the world. For those of you that are not familiar with us, I'm going to play a quick video that introduces you to the entire organization before I drill down a little bit more into our horse work. Okay, so can I just play this and it'll...
Yes.
We go. Good luck. Amen.
Every great thing begins small. One idea, one act of compassion, one man who refused to look away. From that single act, a simple truth took root. That freedom, once given, ripples outward, It gains strength as it grows. And so the Wild Animal Sanctuary was born. What began with one rescued lion has grown into the largest carnivore sanctuary in the world, saving thousands of lives, a work forwarded by the effort and the generosity of thousands of people who believe, working together as a single organism, focused on a singular goal. It's all powered by a group of people who give of themselves to something greater. These champions form the heart of the sanctuary. They're the quiet architects of possibility, the unseen hands that make this freedom tangible. Without them, none of this exists. Thousands of people united in a single promise: to protect, to restore, to let life run free. This is the family of freedom.
And that brings me to the Wild Horse Refuge, which is truly one of my most favorite places on the planet. We are located the northwestern corner of Colorado. We are home to Colorado-born horses. And we came into existence in 2021 after the sort of notorious, I'm sure many of you are familiar with, roundup that happened in San Luis Pixon. It was kind of one of the first really big publicized controversial roundups in Colorado, where the governor reached out to Pat Craig and was like, we got a situation on our hands. We've got horses that need placement. I don't know what to do. Can you help us? Knowing that we've done this with carnivores, Pat said, okay, give me a couple months. Let me find property. Let me see what I can do to get us a situation, help these animals before they end up in a bad situation.
What?
So I looked all over the state and found the most incredible, perfect piece of property. It's just 30 miles east of San Luis Basin, so it's really just next door to where many of these horses were born. It is an incredible piece of property. We were able to purchase it initially at 23,000 acres and have since added on to it, so it's now 30,000 acres. It has one of the most precious commodities in Colorado, which is water. We have an abundance of water. We have the Lake Creek, which runs north to south of our property and feeds rivers and small ponds all over the property. We have 14 different springs, natural springs, sub-irrigated aquifers, as well as 7 different solar-powered water sources for the horses that now call this home. It is where they're supposed to be, and it is where they have now reclaimed their place. So what do? We are rewilding horses because we are not managing them. We are putting them back onto the land that is familiar to them. It is their ancestral home. And our job is to find horses that have been taken from the land, have lost their freedom, and to say, here is a chance, here's a second chance. The reality is, yes, there are fences. This entire 30,000 acres is fenced in. And so we have a responsibility to manage from a distance. But animals are much better at managing themselves than we are, and we've learned this over and over and over again. So here we are, we've created this space, we've let them reclaim it and call it their home. So again, I'm going a little bit more into what we do. In this rewilding process, this is a lot about just letting animals lead the way, and our job is to stand back and to support from a distance when we lead. Our 2 facilities, like I said, we have the 30,000 acres up in Craig, Colorado, and we have 7,000 acres dedicated to non-Colorado-born horses at our southern facility. That facility currently is at capacity. We are not taking in any out-of-state horses unless it is an absolute crisis, but we are still open for the Colorado horses that need home at our Craig facility.
No, I don't.
So where do these horses come from? 95% of our horses are coming from the GLM. Some of them come straight off. Some of them are coming in through adoption events. And about 5% are coming in from owner surrenders, so private ownership. I'll get a little bit more into that. One of the things that we are seeing, sorry, my wheels are a little bit off here. What we are seeing is an increase in the owner surrenders of Mustangs to our facilities, and this is a growing issue that I'm going to talk a little bit more about farther into this presentation, because I think we've leaned really, really heavily on adoption success. But anyone who's worked at the dog and cat issue knows that it's extremely hard to fix a problem just through adoptions. we, as a result of what we do, we have to work very closely with the BLM. And I've heard the BLM brought up a lot in today's conversation. And a lot of it is, yes, showing them that there is a different way to do it. And then the way that we approach it is we are trying to work with you to figure out another way to do it, because we have to tackle these issues from all angles. So the system that we stepped into, when we showed up and said, hey, we have this incredible sanctuary, we're here to help all the Mustangs, help the Mustangs that need help in Colorado. There was a pretty significant problem. We've got the Wild Horse and Burro Act of 1971, which was empowered to protect and conserve this incredible animal, but it really neglected what is the management going to look like? What are the unintended consequences of protecting something that doesn't have its natural balance anymore, that's been confined in small areas, and is in competition with competing interests and outside interests. And then eventually the system, the success of protecting these animals has, yes, worked. It has now created the other issue. But now the way we are managing it, unfortunately, is relying on long-term holding, on roundups, on adoptions. And that's a reactive management system. So it's not really management, it's a responsive system. We need to actually figure out a way to manage and proactively address these systems before we end up in a greater crisis. When we showed up, everyone looked at us in our orange shirts and they're like, are you guys crazy? What are you doing here? You're carnivore people. You're not supposed to be dealing with the horse stuff. And, we said, hey, we have resources, we have a way to help. But there was no channel for us to fit into. There was no idea that, okay, where does large-scale sanctuary actually fit into the system? We already have a system. We round the horses up, we send them to adoption. The ones that don't get adopted go to long-term holding, or they end up in the, auction and then kill pen pipeline. Where do we go? And the BLM looked at us sideways. They were like, there is no room for you in this equation. And we're like, no, it's a chance. So we would show up to the adoption events, and we would adopt horses. We'd say, okay, any horse here that doesn't end up with a home, we will take. And we had to do this for a while. And we had to show that we had to fill out the applications just like everybody else. And we'd come and get our property inspected. And we had to prove ourselves worthy of giving homes to these horses that had been handed over. We also were purchasing sale authority horses and three-strike horses, trying to help alleviate that sort of the deluge of going into the long-term holding, which we know is its big, massive, extensive problem. And then we also, recently, the BLM has started doing a foster and training program. We will also step up for horses that are deemed untamable and gentle-foal horses. And horses that their spirit is just still too wild. We will get them home. And then we have UNO surrenders, which we have more and more and more of these happening. We have trainers getting overwhelmed, and we're seeing people taking in horses, trying desperately to help. They're trying to save horses from ending up in crisis. But then we end up with people in crisis that have too many horses, or horses that they can't afford to take care of. And we know that horses often still, even if you are a wild Mustang, your safety and your guarantee to a safe home is sometimes only as strong as your ability to submit to a human. And so horses with strong spirits that would rather jump off a cliff, and we have these horses, and be touched by a human, they end up losing their homes over and over and over again. And that's where we step in. And what we want to do is offer, saying, can we reposition the role of the sanctuary and the rescue farther up the chain before they end up as the last resort? And oftentimes sanctuaries are the last resort. We're getting the animals before they are going to go off into, to a kill pen, into the kill pen pipeline. But realistically, if we can interject ourselves a little bit earlier in that process, is there a way for us to help alleviate that suffering? So what are some of the challenges that we're seeing? We're seeing just the sheer number of horses that are coming off the land. It's too much to handle. The adoption events, they're not adopting at all the horses. We're just seeing that there are not enough homes, and we have horses going right into long-term holding. The one horse at a time system is, again, it's great, but not every horse is going to gentle. It is too slow, it is too inefficient. Again, like I said, many horses, they never gentle. That's not what they want, that's not what they need. Long-term holding still remains the number one most relied upon answer for horses that don't have planning. They want to challenge that. Budget constraints. We are seeing more and more community programs closing. The prison programs, one in Colorado recently closed. These were all areas to absorb the burden and the influx of horses. And when those end, those horses have one less chance at help. And so we need to develop stronger community partnerships, whether it's through things like the prison program or with NGOs like us or individual programs. There just has to be more community support and engagement. PZP and fertility control programs, underfunded, understaffed. It is laborious, but man, it does work when it's given the effort and support it needs. but these things are not getting the support it's need. The vast majority of the budget is going to off-range solutions, not on-range solutions. And that's where we need to be refocusing our efforts to get animals out of the crisis pipeline. And the natural resources, we all know what's happening on the HMAs. I'm in Colorado. We are already in a massive catastrophic drought. We're already being told numbers are increases on the next year's gather. Resources are becoming smaller and smaller. The horses are on less and less land. They're not getting redistributed out onto lands that have zeroed out herds. So they are not moving the way that they should have. So the situation is becoming contracted in a more critical way. And this is, again, what we're seeing. So systematic changes. And again, I'm just saying this from the sanctuary perspective. Every perspective here is critical and has more expertise in your corner than I have. But these are things that we see would absolutely help. Expanding the PZP programs and really doubling down on-range solutions. Once the animal's taken off the land, the crisis has already begun. An animal shouldn't lose its freedom. I, as somebody who works in rescue, and that's one thing I do, I don't ever want to see an animal lose its freedom and its right to its own life the way it's supposed to be. But here we are, we do have to do something. The roundups are happening, the gathers are happening. There has to be a response here to help. And improve the adoption success. Helping adopters, maybe not taking a Mustang right off of the range and putting it in the hands of a 15-year-old who wants to learn how to train a Mustang for the first time. Let's help set up the adopters. Let's give them either scoring systems, 1 through 3. This horse is maybe not going to be more workable. Doing behavioral assessments. We've seen this in the shelter world. Helping animals that have a higher success rate stay in a home, get those into the homes, and the ones that have a lesser chance, let's get them in sanctuary. And this is where large-scale sanctuaries can help and be resources to help alleviate some of this incredible burden. Like I said, strengthening partnerships. And then ultimately, and our previous presentation talking about is developing large-scale solutions for NGOs or private owners or partnerships that offer intermediary solutions before horses end up in the sort of traditional system and pipeline. So what role can sanctuaries help? What can we actually do? Large-scale sanctuaries like ours, we provide a humane alternative. We are a stopgap for Colorado's horses, and we will maintain being open to Colorado's horses as long as we can, as long as there's land to be purchased. Help alleviate the reliance and the dependency on this old system of sending horses off to long-term holding. We're an NGO. We do our own thing. We can move a lot more quickly than the government. So whenever it's a crisis situation, we can pivot, we can find creative solutions. And that's the power of community, and that's the power of the individual participation in coming up with big solutions. And then also, private organizations, NGOs, sanctuaries, rescues, we're educators. We are out there mobilizing the public will and the public interest in getting people to care about what's going on. So it's not just about sitting here with our horses and hiding off in the corners. It's about inviting people in to talk to them about what's happening to horses here in the U.S., getting people to care and to mobilize so that you have an engaged population of people, an engaged population, an informed population of people who are voting on these things, the ones that are going to go and call their senators and their governors and all of this and put pressure. The more informed they are and the more mobilized they are, the more powerful we are. And so what else can sanctuaries do beyond just be there for animals in crisis? This is the part of our work that, we're new in this side of the horse world. What we found is that, we offer a home to over 280 of the Colorado horses. We are showing that, yes, there are solutions here for horses. There are large-scale sanctuary solutions. We're also showing how you can work with the government and find alternatives to the traditional system. But we also found is that nature is telling us and leading the way, and we are listening. We have found that the horses on the land, they tend to themselves. Their hooves stay healthy, their coats stay healthy, their teeth stay healthy. They are part of the ecosystem. They're going back into their proper place. And again, our goal here initially was we're here for sanctuary and rescue. But then as we're watching and looking at the land, we're like, oh, something else is going on here. It's not just about this. There is a whole recovery happening here. The land is speaking to us. The horses are speaking to us. And this is where I want to close out with a little documentary that we did not document, a little video we did about what we're actually seeing happening here on our land, which is beyond what we'd ever expected.
Every living thing is connected. Everything that moves, that breathes, that grows is part of a whole, larger than itself. The prairies that stretch broad across the west, the grasses that reach toward the sun and send roots down into the earth, the land home to creatures large and small, furred and feathered, who spread seeds and leave behind nourishment for the soil, and the predators that keep it all in balance. This is not poetry, this is ecology. And here, on a vast stretch of Colorado's high plains, the mighty, majestic mustangs take their place as part of this beautifully balanced system. The Wild Horse Refuge exists to elevate freedom. Created by the Wild Animal Sanctuary, the refuge is a place where hundreds of Colorado's wild mustangs are free. Not bred, not sold, not exploited. As development and ranching have expanded, these horses have found themselves with nowhere to go. And so they are rounded up and auctioned off. For some, this has created a new life and domestication. For others, the experience has been tragic and deadly. The Wild Horse Refuge creates a forever home for these majestic creatures, free to roam in their ancestral lands. The refuge furthers the mission of the Wild Animal Sanctuary to protect wild lives and offer them extraordinary freedom. The Wild Horse Refuge sprawls over 46 square miles of rolling hills, rocky crags, and a big sky horizon. The land is dotted with native grasses, ancient sagebrush, and pinyon and juniper woodlands that stabilize the hard-baked soil and retain its precious moisture. This unique habitat, part of the sagebrush steppe ecosystem, is one of North America's most threatened landscapes, and yet it supports more than 350 species of birds, mammals, and reptiles across the western United States. Mule deer, pronghorns, and elk thrive here. In the spring, greater sagegrass gather to perform their elaborate courtship dance. These birds serve as an indicator species, reflecting the overall health of the sagebrush ecosystem, which has seen their populations decline by more than 80% over the last century due to habitat loss and fragmentation. Prairie dogs and jackrabbits make their homes on the ground, hunted by eagles above and bobcats below. All together, they form a diverse ecological web that keeps the refuge healthy and dynamic. Ecologists describe this kind of system as a trophic network, where predators, herbivores, and plants regulate one another through energy and nutrient flows. Wild mustangs are an integral and long-established part of the system. They are ecological engineers, quite literally shaping the land simply by living on it. In ecological terms, an engineer is a species that alters its environment in ways that affect other organisms. As the horses wander through the landscape, every step they take aerates the soil. Unlike other grazers, horses don't fully break down the seeds during digestion, and during their daily travels, they return the seeds to the earth wrapped in manure that fertilizes new ground so the seeds can root and grow. By grazing dominant grasses, the horses prevent any single species from taking over, encouraging increased biodiversity. Wild horses survive on dry, coarse vegetation that many other grazers leave behind, including invasive plants like cheatgrass, a kindling of catastrophic wildfires. By consuming this fuel, horses help protect the land, reducing the intensity and spread of fire across the plains. Because cheatgrass grows quickly, dries out early, and dramatically increases fire frequency across western rangelands, the horses' grazing plays an important role in protecting and maintaining the landscape. In this semi-arid environment, water can be hard to find. While the refuge maintains wells and water holes, the horses are also masters at finding their own water. Wild horses dig deep into dry ground to reach water below the surface and create new watering holes that support animals and plant life alike.
In arid ecosystems, animal-created water sources can function as resource hotspots, concentrating biodiversity during drought conditions. In nature, balance is what happens when a species is allowed to do what it has evolved to do, when freedom becomes function. The wild horses are not separate from this land. They are part of its memory, its resilience, and its future. The Wild Horse Refuge's science-based stewardship demonstrates that wild horses can share habitats, food sources, and water that support the full spectrum of wildlife in this basin. This is a place of learning and research to discover what healthy rangeland ecology looks like when nature leads the way. Everything that lives is connected. The horse, the grass, the water, the life that surrounds us all. Protecting the horses at the Wild Horse Refuge protects this precious landscape, the heart of the American West, and all the creatures who call this place home. The Wild Horse Refuge, a living model of coexistence, where wild horses thrive as a critical part of a functioning whole.
Nice. It was like came out.
And thank you guys for sitting through this and watching this video. It does a really good job of showing what we're learning. You know, we are eternal students. Animals are the best teachers, and so is the environment. So every year we do our range assessments. We are learning about what the land wants, but at your home, how we have to pivot, how we have to be good stewards, and be good stewards to the land, to our community, to our neighbors, to the horses that call us home. So yeah, thank you all so very much, and happy to have some questions. I know we ran quite a bit over, so.
Wow, your place is magnificent. I'm kind of amazed at the BLM actually, when you said that you have, wild cats and things like that. I'm surprised that they didn't say, here, please take them all. I think being that we have Laura Lee here and Fernando here, I think what we need to do, being a lifelong horsewoman, I find it appalling that the BLM is first of all rounding up all these horses. They're basically an unmarketable commodity. You cannot take wild horses and put them upon the public, the general public, to say, here, take this horse. If we could put a proposal to the BLM saying, give these sanctuaries first bid on any wild horses. I think it's great that you got the Colorado horses, but I didn't know that you couldn't take just a whole herd. You had to go through the whole process. That's stupid. It's the government. No. You need first bid for all the sanctuaries, for all of the horses, and then they could do whatever they want. Something needs to be done because the way that they're doing it in these continuous roundups, it's not sustainable. And they'll give it to some of these other zoos and everything, but not to you guys. Thank you.
I appreciate the support, the sentiment, and the fire, honestly, because that, I'm the one that has to fill out the applications when we go to those, and I'm like, do I have to do this again? But we had to prove ourselves trustworthy, and I think we've done a really good job at that, as saying,
Right?
no, it's different. And, well, and it's sometimes this is the challenge, is the people that follow the rules, we're the ones that carry the burden of doing it right. And this is the same thing when I'm moving an endangered species from a war zone in Lebanon to our sanctuary here. They put me through the ringer to get that paperwork done properly, but there are marketers and there are transporters that are moving animals across the lines on the dark of night, and nobody blinks an eye. So it's unfortunately, when you're doing it right, sometimes you can't get priced. But at least we do it right, and we know if they're ending up in a good spot.
Since the beginning of your relationship with the BLM, when you first got the horses and now, do you say that relationship is better? And based on your own personal experience with your horses, could you give us some advice on ways to build those relationships with the BLM so that we could maybe work together and work on this problem together as opposed to being, adversarial?
Yeah.
We have been for years.
It's a great question, and it's been a learning for us for sure. When we showed up, we were not welcome. There was a big, we show up in mass with bright orange shirts, so we come in a little bit shocking. So we did get some side eyes, and we did get pushback. And one of the things that Pat, my mentor, my boss, my friend, has been like, Danika, patience, be kind. You'd show up, and that's what we did. There would be an adoption event. We would show up. They would sometimes say, "You guys got to go stand over there." And we'd be, okay, we'll go stand over there. And then we should come up at the end and say, "Hey, do you have horses that need help?" And they say, "Yeah, we do have 3." So we'd go, "We'll take them." And eventually, you do this enough, and they started to trust us, and it started to become a partnership because they ended up in situations where they needed help too. They had horses they needed to move, and individually, these are people that also care about horses. But they're also stuck in a system that is really challenging. And many people have been working through a government system and they have been conditioned into a way of working. And so we have to also learn what are the rail guards they're working up against too. What are the rules that they're hitting and what are the frustrations they have, and trying to find that common ground of, and she said in the previous lecture, it's, we are all in this together, but we're all kind of stuck with our own hurdles, and figuring out where we can meet on that same hurdle, I think helps a lot. So when they did close the prison program, they had a lot of horses. They had to move quickly. And there are a lot of activists in Colorado that don't want those horses leaving the state. And we were able to step in and help and say, okay, let us be a resource here. Let us not let this, situation really fall apart. And we're still having conversations with the BLM all the time of how can we do this better in Colorado? How can we better serve these horses? And again, there's 2 steps forward, 3 steps to the side, 1 step back, 5 steps forward. It's that constant dance, but showing up, being patient, and always saying, our unwavering position is to help these horses in need. And sometimes it's not going to look exactly like we want it to look, but man, it's 1 step closer. So
How many of those prison horses did you actually rescue?
So we ended up with 30.
30.
Yeah.
That's a lot more than okay. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
When we were at the Refuge last time.
Oh, sorry, I realized I went out of line. I'm not going to call. I'm going to let you do your job.
Question here, I'll be
Fairly quick.
Yeah. I was just wondering, what was the process for getting the funding and then also finding the land?
Yeah. So getting the funding, one, you got to leverage loans sometimes. And so, and this is the part, nonprofits, I've been working in nonprofits for a long time. Debt is very scary for a lot of nonprofits to get that. But the horses needed us urgently. So we went out, we purchased land, we took out ag loans, but we also turned to our supporters and said, hey, we just committed to something really big, something that's going to change the world for horses. And they stepped right up. And so our supporters, anywhere from the $25 a month supporter to the estate planner, jumped in and really helped us pay off that land. But that's how we've been able to grow at the size that we've been able to do it at. So yes, we do own the land, and it's all from individual supporters. We don't get any government support. We'll write grants for equipment, but when we reseed our fields, but other than that, it is a collective support. This piece of property, when we first purchased it, was 23,000 acres. We've been able to add more land from our neighbors as we've gone, but it was a family kind of hobby hunting range area. They're, sort of little boys out there and friendly with their neighbors who are all the sheep farmers and whatnot. They were hunting, and they were hunting carnivores. So when we came in, there was only we weren't always the most favorite person at first because we're like, hey, we're not here to hunt this land. We're here to let this land do its thing with the animals. But then the neighbors realized that we are good neighbors. We are a support system. We're not here to completely change people's way of life. We're here to just be part of the community. Also having good fences makes good neighbors.
We have a question here. Yes, when we were at the Refuge last time, they were setting up some paddocks at the very beginning before you went in. And we were told that they were trying to set up something so they could act as a holding facility for horses rounded up in northwestern Colorado because there are several HMAs there. And with Canyon City closing down, is that happening?
It is a conversation. We are showing that we have the facilities. We have it, as you got to see, we were actively building because we knew that the problem was not going to get smaller over time. So yes, it is an ongoing conversation between us and the BLM as to how we can continue to be a support for horses that are being taken off their lands. So I don't have a solid answer for that yet, but
So I was out there last year, beautiful place.
thank you.
So, how many horses do you have now? And also, how many acres of the 30,000 are those horses using? Because I believe last year they were using 1,500 of the 30,000. Just curious if that expands.
So last year we were using 17,000 of the 30,000, yes. So we we now have horses across the whole property, distributed around. We do have to move them sometimes, so we did, last year's drought got pretty bad, so we're like, all right, let's move you guys over and give this area some rest, but now we have all of our horses distributed across the entire property. We do have more horses currently on the eastern side than we do on the western side, but that's because when you came and visited, the majority were on the western side.
There's no room for one more question.
So, thank you for your speech, very good. And curious, are you open to the public? You have the public come in to see the refuge, and do you supplementary feed?
So yes, we are open to the public, but by appointment and tour only, so you can't just like show up. But you can check out our website and schedule a tour. We have incredible educators that will take you all over the property. It's super fun, beautiful, get to go see the horses and enjoy a buggy ride. But yes, we are absolutely open to the public. We want people to know what we do. We want people to care. And then the other question of supplemental feeding. So we do not supplemental feed unless we absolutely have to. So far we haven't. However, the drought crisis right now in Colorado does have everyone quite disturbed. We have already gotten several notices from the BLM about even changing grazing patterns on BLM leased lands. We have purchased hay to get our horses through a year if we have to. This is a huge financial undertaking, but our commitment is to make sure these horses have what they need. And it's, again, this is our backup. We'll sell the hay if we have to, but we don't want to have to do this. We do not want to have to intervene and manage if we do not have to. But at the end of the day, these horses are stuck in fences. They are not free to move across the state as they normally would if we hadn't come here and changed everything. So we have a responsibility to take care of them to a degree and not just put our hands up and say, hey, you guys are free horses and on 30,000 acres, good luck. We do have to be responsible. So long answer is no, we do not supplement unless there's a crisis. But we are prepared for that. We have to.
Thank you, Jen.